Good morning / afternoon / evening, depending on which time zone you're in and like when this comes out. This is the Groundhoppers Guide end of season party. Hey!
Number 10. I didn't get a beer. Damn it.
We made it through the year. Like I started out on like 5 grounds, I think, and I'm now on 52.
Yep. I started on, I think, 19.
It was somewhere around there, somewhere around
18, 19, and I ended up with, 46. So there you go.
That's pretty good going. Like, this is our first season taking a run at this. And I felt like before we started, in my head, I was like, I want to do 50. Like 50 would be good. But there was also a little, there was like a benchmark on footballgroundmap.com, which we've used extensively, which was that the average fan on Football Ground Map had been to, I can't find the number. Where's the number? 47 grounds. So I felt that getting above 47 would put me make me above average. So that was like the main goal, was to become above average. You're just below average.
Well, actually, no. Looking at it now, it does say 46.41. So as long as I see it 0.4 of a game,
then you'll be average.
I am average, yeah.
Yeah, 47 was my target, to get over that, so like I was above average. So I'm not only above average, I'm now 5 grounds past that. So I'm quite happy with that. 50 was like a stretch target. I feel like I've got that job done. Also, I felt the need to kind of catch up, because like everyone else that I'd spoke to had been to a lot more grounds because they'd spent their time traveling around, whereas I'd just gone to one ground a lot.
And I think I kind of was maybe not quite as much, but same kind of in the same wheelhouse. I'd mainly been a sort of a home supporter. So yeah, this is basically the first year either of us, well, both of us, had sort of taken it seriously, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been wild. It's been a wild ride. It's been all kinds of different things. I didn't know what to expect from this season, and to say I've had a range of experiences would be accurate. From a crowd of like 30, 40 people to 50,000. I've done the whole range, the whole scope of the amount of people that you can get in there, and from the atmosphere being like dead as a doornail to raucous as hell, I've seen all of that as well. I've seen the whole range. It's been a good season.
Yeah, for sure. I say, like you say, I was at 9 people at Harpenden Town, and I 75,000 people at Wembley Stadium. So it's
9. Did you count?
It weren't far off 9. I think it might have been 10, 11, 12, but it weren't that much more.
We put some mileage in as well. So before we started recording, I was looking at the furthest distance that I've been to a game, and it's 343 miles, which was when I went to Tannadice to watch Dundee United with Eddie. You've been further than that, though, because you went to Germany.
Well, I did a game I did 3 games, but two stadiums in Berlin. So in November, if you can cast your mind back all that time, before Omicron, of all things. Before Omicron kicked off, I had a week in Berlin, and I saw. So my furthest ground by about a kilometer is the Friedrich Ludwig Jahn Sport Park, which was home of Victoria Berlin for their game against Borussia Dortmund 2. And I said I did about 2 kilometers further west was in West Berlin was Mommsenstadion for Tennis Borussia, who I saw twice. So yeah, although you did
jealous of that.
Yeah, it was sorry, as you were saying.
Yeah, I was very jealous of the fact that you'd managed to get a foreign ground in, whereas I've been.
Well, you went to Wales and Scotland.
I went to Wales and to Scotland, so I was quite happy with that. But then Germany is quite far compared to that. I feel like we were still day tripping, although Dundee was more of an overnight deal. Actually, I went overnight in Wales as well, but that's besides the point. I could have done it in a day. I chose to stay there because I wanted to hang around with Wabs and drink some beer. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, it was sort of one of these things that I needed a week away, and Berlin was sort of the perfect thing. And Berlin, as I sort of said at the time, is kind of a sleeper mecca for football. I think in Europe, you can find a game pretty much every evening.
There was a lot of games. I remember you sending me the football screenshot, and I was like, that's a lot of games.
Yeah, it's as I say, it's very quietly. It's not a lot of people don't consider it a football city, but it definitely is. You could say, and it's at every level from Bundesliga down to Kreisliga, Bezirksliga. It's there's a lot of options there, but yeah, I only did 2. I could have done another one, but I liked Tennis Borussia so much that I kind of was like, yeah, I want to go back for a second one. So,
well, the great news is there's an awful lot of different leagues and grounds and stuff that we haven't even touched upon this season. So even though I've gone north of 50 grounds, like I haven't even come close to scratching the surface of European football, let alone across the world. So like, this is exciting. It's like this is step 1 of the journey, and it's been fantastic so far. Well, not all of it has been. Most of it has been fantastic. So what we have for you this evening is we have some awards based
almost like an award,
yeah, based on how our season has gone and what we've enjoyed and what we haven't enjoyed. So we have 3 worst of experiences, and then we've got 6 best of, because it's like the best has far and away outweighed the worst. I mean, there's been maybe 2 times that I've sat there and gone like, why am I doing this? And I've immediately had a fantastic experience right off the back of that. Like literally the next day, both times, literally the next day, I had a fantastic experience, and it just pulled me straight back in again. So we're going to go with the worst so far, and I think we're actually tied on what our worst experience in football has been this season.
Yeah. So worst experience, sort of in general, match day experience in general. I think we're both agreed on. It's the unspoken game that we didn't talk about back in November. It was was it December? I think start of December. It was just before Omicron kicked off properly, wasn't it?
I'm gonna have to look it up.
It was
November the 19th.
Yeah, so sort of mid-November. Yeah, so we both did a Friday night game in at QPR. We went to Loftus Road, or the Cayenne Prince Stadium, or whatever you want to call it. We went to Loftus Road for Luton Town versus QPR. An away game for me, and it was sort of, hey, do you want to tag along? Why not? It was a good sort of. We planned on doing sort of a game on the Saturday as well, so we did that. And yeah, in general, it was a terrible experience. Not only because of the result. I think QPR won 3-0, wasn't it? In the end, 2-3.
I think it was 2-0. I remember Charlie Austin scored.
Yeah, I've got it here. It was 2-0. Sorry. So obviously, I was disappointed because of that, but there was racist and sexist chanting. It was not, which in itself is terrible, but there was also.
Yeah, it was back and forth as well. So I can't even say, oh, QPR fans are terrible. It was
Luton as well.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed going to Luton. I'm sure we'll touch on that later, but the experience at Luton was completely different to the away experience. I don't know if some of the lads that were there have been banned from going to Luton.
Yeah.
And they can only now go and get their jollies by going to the away games. But as far as experiences go, it was not a good game experience being in that end, because it was like, and I don't know if this is just the norm for football at that level, but you got the away fans, and then you've got some hardcore elements of the home fans, and all they're doing is just screaming abuse at each other, not chanting, just screaming abuse at each other the whole game. And I'm like, where's the fun in this? So you were actually enjoying themselves here. I mean, maybe they were. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
and
there was that, and the fact that it was advertised as like a child
family
game, which it clearly wasn't. And when we were coming out the ground, this is the worst part. when we were coming out the ground, we got held back for ages and we were stood around waiting, and they held the QPR fans back as well. So the QPR fans are out there steaming mad because they're being held back for us, and we're being held back as well. So we don't know what's going on. And then we come out, and it's just like you're just walking in. It's like walking into a movie set with the riot vans and the police horses everywhere. And I see the as soon as we got out and we were down and past like the first bottleneck, there was this guy and he had got like 2 young kids with him, and he's getting the kids to take their football shirts off, and that didn't sit right with me at all. Because are you telling me that we're in a situation where one of those kids might have got like smacked around for wearing a football shirt?
Yeah,
they were like 8.
Yeah,
so that was horrible. I don't think the police handled it well at all.
Yeah, I mean, there was a point where they went into a formation and charged at us randomly.
So we're just walking along the road, and I'm like going like, "Wow, look at that! That's just ridiculous." And this like phalanx of riot police come charging down the middle of the street, like all together with the shields up and everything. I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing?" So that was weird. And of course, we saw a guy on our way to the tube station. We saw a guy who'd been, I guess he'd been hit with a bottle.
Yeah, poor fellow Luton fan. Yeah, he was attacked and went into a coma, unfortunately, and he is out of the coma and he's recovering. But I think it's effectively a life-changing injury.
Yeah, I mean that's just terrible. I mean, you don't want that when you go to the football. It's
ridiculous. The QPR fan who did it, I believe he has been in court in the last sort of month or so. He was originally charged with, I think he was charged with attempted manslaughter initially, and I think it's gone down to GBH, which is just horrific. And it was like, what was, the worst thing was coming out of that, and some poor old bloke had gone to this game and probably said bye to his family that afternoon or the night before, or texting and then a horrific, irreparably damaged because of some thug in the thing. Yeah, it's just awful. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was horrible. And I feel like the point at which it went from like this is wild. I'm not sure I'm enjoying myself, but this is really weird. It's an experience to this is just fucking horrible. Is when I saw the guy like down in the street, because that's where it went from like to this is real. And you can't. There's just no accounting for that. So that was a horrible experience. And I remember, so afterwards we went, like all your mates, all went on the tube, and we basically walked away to somewhere else and went and had a beer.
Yeah.
And we ended up having like a really nice weekend after that. But like that will stay with me.
I can still picture the guy on the floor in my head now. It's awful. I don't think I'll ever forget that.
And we didn't want to talk about it at the time, but then I feel like if we don't talk about it, we just ignore it. I mean, I didn't even write about it. This is the one where I was like, I started writing it, and all I could write about was like, I didn't want to make it sound like, the grim spectre of football hooliganism. I didn't want to sound like that, because it's not about like a bunch of lads who would just want to like have a scrap. If you want to have a scrap, that's fine. But if you want to bottle somebody in the back of the head when they're just walking along, then you just don't belong in football. It's not for you.
Society in general.
Well, life is not for you. You're just a dickhead.
Yeah. And I say it was horrific experience, and I'd say we're told. I think we're very often told that side of the game is a thing of the past, and quite evident.
I like to think that the vast majority of saying that is done with is true, but there is still that element there, and I don't want to start throwing excuses around as to why it's happening. But I just for starters, if there's a game where there's history between the two teams, which I wasn't that aware of it, but I got made aware of it after the game had happened. But if there's history between the two teams, don't have it on a Friday night.
Yeah,
that's mad. Like, how are you supposed to police that? The sheer level of policing showed that the police thought it was a mistake. But was it on Sky or?
It was Friday night Sky Sports.
Yeah, I mean, Sky need to just pull their head out their ass and just not do that. Really, if they'd had it maybe like Sunday lunchtime.
To be honest, 3:00 on a Saturday probably would have been all right.
Yeah, it just a Friday night though. It wasn't the time or the place for that at all.
No, definitely not.
Right, let's move on because I've said all I want to say about that. And this is the party. It's not the come down. So let's have a bit of a laugh about worst game. Unless you've also selected that as your worst game.
Well, I hated Southampton versus Watford.
Yeah, that was surprisingly awful.
Not only because Watford won, but mainly actually it was. I got pointed out before the game by a friend of the show, Ashley, who's one of my oldest friends. He mentioned about the Roy Hodgson 85th minute break, and then it happened, and I've never not seen it. So basically, there's the long, basically no subs until 85 minutes. And then there's also a break at something like 70 minutes where they just kick it off and somebody goes down. And it happened during that game. And it happens in every single Roy Hodgson managed game. Because I watched another Watford game later on in the season after that, and it happened again. So
there was a lot of shithousery in that game.
Yeah, so
I feel like that game peaked with the Southampton band marching down the side of the pitch to when the Saints go marching in. I think that was probably the best part of the game, and everything after that was bad.
But yeah, I think I can't really think of a game that I watched and I was like, "This is dreadful." I went to plenty of boring games, but yeah, I can't really think of any that were dreadful, terrible standard.
See, I've got one.
Okay, and then I'll probably get. Oh yeah,
it's kind of a combination of. This was my second worst experience of the season, and it's only not the worst because, like, nobody got bottled into a coma. The game that I went to at St Andrews was between Birmingham City women and Aston Villa women, and I don't want to come across as like a misogynist or anything here, because it wasn't just like a bad game. It was just dread. Like, every aspect of that day was dreadful. I have seen 3 women's games this season. One was great, one was okay, and this one was shocking. So there's been like a nice sliding scale of across the levels. This is like a top flight game. It's the only top flight game I went to, and it was like Birmingham City women against Aston Villa women, and the Blues. I've actually seen them play since on TV, and they were much better. And this day was like, I think this is the last game that their manager was in charge. But basically, he had 2 small, quick forward players, and all they did all game long was just hoof it long. So there was long ball after long ball, and the Villa centre half is just like, again, okay. She must have won like 80 headers in the game, because every single time Blues got the ball, they just hit it long.
Hoofed it.
And I'm not kidding when I say that one of the forwards is like 5'5" and the other one was about the same. Like, the only thing I can think of is they're going for balls over the top and they just underhit them all the time. But it was dreadful. So the standard of football was really bad. The match day experience was horrific. So we got there. When the women play, basically the home part is like one stand, and the away part is like the corner on the other side. So you're miles apart from the away fans, but the away fans get to sit wherever they want. and the home fans have to sit in this one section.
Okay.
So immediately, like, the home fans are treated far worse than the away fans. So we get there and we go to find our seats, and there's somebody sat in one of them. So we're like, well, we'll go further along anyway because it's a better spot. So we go down to the end, and we sit down there, and you basically can't see past the dugout. So we moved up, and then it's like we got up to the top of that stand, and we got told we had to move along. And I'm like, why? They're like, no, just move along. You can't sit here. Why? So we move along. So we basically sat like back behind where we would have been sat before. So like I guess we're in a better seat than we would have been, marginally, a slightly better view. But we're sat right underneath the tannoy. The tannoy's broken. So every time somebody goes to talk on the tannoy, this loud, high-pitched squealing noise comes through the tannoy. And it's like, and I'm like, every time it comes on, because like you got no warning, it's like click, and I'm like, my ears, because I'm sat right underneath this thing. And it got to the point where I started screaming abuse at it because I'm just like, just fix it. Either fix it or stop using it. Why is it broken? This is the only part of the entire stadium that we're sat in. Why is this tannoy broken? The stewards were god awful. They're the worst stewards I've ever encountered in my life. So we got in there. The steward that basically was, we got in. I'm like, is this the section we're supposed to sit in? He went, I don't know. And I showed him the ticket, and I went, oh, it's down there somewhere, I think. Brilliant, thanks.
Great
so
work,
we get up into the stand, and then we get moved by this one steward who was really rude, like obnoxiously rude. That's the thing about Birmingham City. Everyone that goes to that building fucking hates Birmingham City Football Club. They all do. The fans, the stewards, the players, they all just fucking hate it there. So like when you're there, you're like, why am I here? What's the point? Because everyone hates it. So what's the point? So after we've been moved, Maria decides she wants to go and get something to eat. So she goes to the snack thing at halftime, and she's queuing for so long that she came back 10 minutes into the second half. She bought a beer, and she brought it back out thinking it's a women's game. What difference does it make? So she's brought it back to the stand. She sat down. She goes to start eating the food, and this steward, this same dickhead from before, comes over and goes, you can't have that in here. I was like, what, this beer? And he's like, no, just, you got to get rid of it. I'm like, well, I don't want it anyway. It's fucking Carlin. So I hand the beer to him, and he goes, no, I don't want it. I was like, well, I don't want it either. So we've got this standoff where I'm going, like, I don't want this. And he goes, well, I don't want it. And I was like, fine. Well, I'll take it all the way down the other end of the stand, and I'll fucking throw it on the pitch. So I went down the other end of the stand. I didn't. I went down the end of the stand. I handed it to the other steward down that end. I was like, look, this is over by me, and the steward's being a dickhead. So, like, can you just get rid of this? And he went, oh, okay. So I gave it, and he just kind of put it down next to him. So I walked back to the thing, sat down, and the steward, I'm not kidding, was arguing with someone in front of him because this guy said, why can't I sit in my seat? My seat's over there. And he went, because you can't. I've told you can't. St Andrews.
The ground is falling apart.
Shithole. It's falling apart. It was legit. If it hadn't been for that away day at QPR, it would have been by a million miles the worst experience I'd have had all season. I fucking hated it. I hate St Andrews. And Birmingham City, if they don't sort their shit out, they're going to be below Solihull Moors in the league because they're a fucking terrible club and they deserve everything they get.
We should just swap Notts
Party!
Just swap Notts County and relegate Birmingham City, bastards. I always turn Luton over as well.
Yeah, I hate Blues. And I didn't. I quite like Birmingham City until I went there. And having been there, it's just so depressing. It's so depressing that I don't see the point of it. They should just liquidate the club and get rid of it.
Yeah, there's no positives about Birmingham City as a club at all, is it? It's definitely a club in descendancy.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a problem. I'm aware that the majority of the issues stem from the ownership, and that the fans do not care for the ownership. I've got a lot of friends who are Birmingham City fans, so I don't want to rubbish the club too much, because over the years they've been like a little plucky underdog team, and they should be a big club because they're bang in the middle of Birmingham. It's the second city. They should have the finances and the wherewithal to be a big club. But the way it's being run, it's a shambles, and everybody hates it. So I just don't go there, because like if you go there, you're gonna have a miserable day, and everyone else is miserable. It's just miserable.
I mean, there was a. I don't think it ever came to anything, but there was. I remember a few years back there was a plan for them to possibly move to, because obviously Birmingham has the Commonwealth Games later this year. And there was potential that they may have possibly moved City to the new athletics or refurbished athletics stadium, but I don't think that's ever come into it. I think, is it?
I don't think so. No, I think they're where they are.
But
yeah. So under worst ground, I had St Andrews.
My worst ground, probably, I can't think of any that were particularly terrible. There was a few which were very desolate and nothing there. There was the Kingsway Recreational Ground in Luton for the 61 FC. It's like behind a old factory. It's completely open. It was -2 when I went to the game. It was the second time I went to the game. The first time I went there was during
the game got called off.
The game got called off 10 minutes before, 25 minutes before the game because of the petrol crisis when nobody had any fuel. Second time
when I drove to Scotland.
Yeah, but they couldn't get a.
They couldn't get to the.
They couldn't get a blood. I think it wasn't even that far away what other team it was, but anyway. It was freezing cold. It's slapdash. It's behind a factory that's falling apart. It looks like something out of 7th division Polish league, like the Moldovan 3rd division. I can't really slag it that much for that. Another ground in Luton I really didn't like was the Brace, which is where Crawley Green FC, which is
was
actually
was that the one that smelled of sewage?
Yeah, there was a broken sewage pipe and it smelled of excrement. So that wasn't particularly fun. But everyone there was really nice. I can't really fault them for that. And, but there was a broken sewage pipe, so it was horrible. And it was also in that period where the excuse for anything not being good was, oh, sorry, because we've only just opened and we've had COVID, we can't really do anything. So, that was that. I kind of weren't overly enamoured by Southampton in general. Wouldn't say it's a terrible ground, but it was just a bit boring.
Yeah, it's, as far as new builds go, it's very.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I think I'm more annoyed with non-league grounds that I've been to where they've put in a 3G and there's like a big fence around the side of the ground, so it's just like a fenced-in playing area, and they're just. It just doesn't feel like a proper club when they do that.
It's not a good experience. Just looking through. Sorry, doing the terrible thing, looking at my phone and thing. I can't really see any others that I were particularly unimpressed by. Really, I think pretty much everything else. I went to a few non-league grounds which were a bit desolate, but I can't really blame them for the level. Really,
I had a couple that weren't very good. A Racing Club Warwick. There was just a big fence around the outside, and the goals were on wheels, and it was a 3G pitch, and it's like all of these are just little tick boxes in the I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And the social club, I went into it because I needed to go for a piss because me and Josh had been out for a few beers beforehand. And Warwick's a lovely city, by the way. It's fantastic. I'd highly recommend going there, but the club's rubbish. So we went in there, and I basically went for a piss, and they had one urinal, and to say it wasn't clean would be an understatement. But basically somebody had spat on the back of it, and it was just
dry.
It was very unpleasant. So I wouldn't recommend Racing Club Warwick. I also went to Studley. I think it's because it was really cold when I went to Studley, but also because there was a guy sat behind me who couldn't stop coughing. And like when he was talking, it's like he had like his throat was entirely full of phlegm. So we had to move because you can't
at that period anyway.
Dealing with that. So that was deeply unpleasant. I think that's about it for bad ground. I didn't like Solihull Moors. It's a particularly untidy ground, and there's posts in the way of everything, even though it's really small. The toilet was filthy. This is just coming off COVID as well, so like,
just no excuse for it to be like that.
Tiny toilet. I basically stood outside and waited for people to empty out because it was so full. And then when I went in there, I went to wash my hands, and there was no soap.
Yeah.
There's no soap. You literally just coming off a pandemic. There's no soap.
Yeah. I say I wasn't particularly over enamored by. There's two grounds I can think of which I wasn't particularly over enamored by, but they were saved by having decent clubhouses. So it's kind of like Welwyn Garden City and Biggleswade Town. When I did them two, they both were fairly. I didn't really like the grounds themselves, but the clubhouses were really nice. So that's kind of. I don't really want to slag them for that, but they were kind of uninteresting grounds.
Yeah. There's quite a few that are just grounds.
Yeah. Just a number, yeah.
So before we launch into the best ofs,
the good things,
we're basically going to talk about some of the merch that we picked up during the course of the season. So I have a few shirts that I bought. I'm wearing the Forest Green Rovers sponsored by Ecotricity shirt. I basically bought this so that me and Josh could have wearing the same shirt picture taken outside the ground. He had it as his profile picture for ages, so I feel that it was worth it just for that. Yeah. I also picked up this at Hereford. Basically, Adidas stopped making these, presumably because they're very pink. But they had one of these left. So the club shop online, there was nothing, but in the shop at the ground, they had one. So this is
one.
Yeah, this is the last one. This is the last of these shirts. But if you can see on the badge, you've got the Hereford bull. When we were on the train, Josh asked if it was a sheep. So again, memories. We had a really nice sort of little pub crawl as well in Hereford.
He was on the beer that day, yeah.
Yeah, I really like Hereford. And this fella, I didn't buy it at the Dundee United, but I bought this because we were going to Dundee United. That's a beauty.
It's orange.
Yeah, it's a cracking. And on the back it says "Just drink."
Can't disagree with that.
I like the mentality of that. So I'll pick that one up. And also, Notts County, I've got a scarf. So I've got the whole Notts County deal. Come on, you pies.
Come on, the pies. Yeah. So I didn't buy any. Sorry.
That's all right. Carry on, Mike.
I didn't buy any football shirts this year. I just didn't really. I don't really have any further comment on that. I did buy a scarf for Tennis Borussia Berlin, and I also bought a T-shirt there, which is somewhere in my wardrobe, and I couldn't be able to dig it out. So I bought a T-shirt from TB. So yeah, I did buy this. This was kind of the big fashionable thing that everybody had at TB.
They were going to whip it around their head
it was Alan, a good friend of the show, Alan from Ireland. He basically summed it up that it was because the first game I went to was Tebe versus BFC Dynamo, which is the big old team of Berlin in the East Germany, and they have a very, let's say, controversial element to their supports, Dynamo. Not going to disparage them too much, but because I do want to go to Dynamo at some point, but they have a bit of a extreme element to some of their supporters. So they have lots of Lonsdale, leather jackets, skinheads, and things like that. And in comparison, a lot of people at Tebe, Alan basically said they kind of just like very neatly groomed men with nice trimmed beards and very clean purple and white scarves, nicely ironed scarves. So I don't know why I feel like I fit in there. So yeah, it was kind of the thing that everybody was having. There was all waving these around. The other thing I did get, and this is if you know me or you may know me, one thing I do collect is pennants from football clubs, and they're not a big thing in British football, really. They're more of a continental thing, really. So I did get when I say pennant, I mean these sort of things. So most people have them on their, a lot of people have them in Europe on their rear view mirror in their cars. So that's one from Tebe. It's a two-sided one. So it's got the old ping pong bats from Tennis and Ping Pong Club Borussia. And I also managed to get one from Wealdstone FC. So that's one I did get. Nice one. And then I also managed to get one for Bedford Town FC. So I did get them three to add to my collection. I don't have all of them up on my wall, but one day I hope to have a big wall of them. But I have got quite a lot of these. But yeah, so managed to get them, and yeah, that's kind of all I really did get this year. Really, a few books and sort of fanzines I've picked up over the year, but apart from that, yeah, kind of. And I've also got lots of Golden Gamble tickets from various clubs where it's 50-50 draws.
50-50s.
But yeah, them sort of thing.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do in terms of like, should I get like a badge or something from the?
Yeah.
So I've ended up basically just saving the tickets. So I have like a big box full of tickets that's just behind the monitor there. But yeah, apart from that, I haven't really claimed too many. It's mainly Josh's fault. Every time I've ended up with a piece of merch, it's usually been Josh's fault.
Yeah, I like seeing. I've always been like, I like pin badges, and I can totally see myself being very, very into them. And I look at other people's collections, and I'm like, oh, I really wish I had that. But then I'm also thinking, I don't know. I don't know if I start, then it's just going to be a very expensive addition to every single ticket I buy.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time you can't get them, and so I don't know.
It's like ground collecting is in itself a collection. So like if you go into a ground and ticket it off, then you're collecting something. You just can't see it. That's the.
It's kind of like it would almost be like, you know, we're both untapped people, as you could probably, which is no surprise to anybody. But it would be like collecting the bottle top from every single bottle you had on Untapped, which is probably some people you're just going to do there. And I do have them downstairs as well. But you know, it's. I think it would be a thing that it would just be stuff in the end, and it's not something I'm hugely excited about. But I do like seeing other people's collections.
I can't believe you razzed me for my bottle top collection.
Well, yeah, only because I don't have mine to hand. You see.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to move on to the best of what we experienced in football. After slagging football off for like 30 odd minutes, we're going to talk about the stuff we enjoyed. Yes. So we're going to start off with something that I think a lot of people kind of ignore the mascots, but mascots are something we've been paying a particular attention to. And I don't even know how it started, but it started being like, oh, here's I'd be sending you pictures of the mascot going like, hey, look at this guy. And so on and so forth.
I know for me, I have a group chat with me and Emma G and Sarah Flan from Ireland. They're big fans of Harry and Harriet the Hatter. At Luton Town. So whenever I see a mascot, I always take a picture and send to them because I know Sarah's a big fan of the old mascot. So I think that's probably for me why I pay more attention to them than before, because I always just like to get a picture for them. But yeah,
well, it ended up turning it into like a contest. So like
yeah, there's definitely a ranking of them,
and I feel like I've been judging the mascots based on their performance as well. It's not just been like that looks good. It's like literally like how they've interacted with the crowd and how they've performed during the game. So like I feel like I've actually got myself a solid top three. I'm happy with my top three.
I will actually. I know we said we're not going to talk about bad things anymore, but I do want to actually say that QPR's cat mascot, Dirty Pervert Michael Jackson cat mascot, is terrible.
Like, game suitable for children. Mascot grabs crotch repeatedly.
Michael Jackson. Yeah. Listen, fair play to them for having a mascot that was actually sort of animated, and I can still remember to this day. But it's for all the wrong reasons. So I will say I'm not a big fan of that one, but fair play for actually having a go. That's all I would say.
So not only do I have a top three, I have a couple of honourable mentions as well.
Okay, go for it.
I want to give a shout out to Sheffield Wednesday mascot Aussie Owl because he literally tweeted at me from the review that I did of the game. So I feel like for going into the extra effort of interacting with people online,
it's a multimedia mascot, and you've got to be like that.
I'd also want a big shout out for Peter Burrow, the
brilliant
Peter
name.
Burrow mascot. He basically has a carrot that he swings around like before the game, and he's very animated, but like he kind of disappeared during the match. He kind of just went and stood in the corner, so he wasn't really doing anything then. So I feel like that he kind of didn't quite make the elite three for me there.
I would actually say I didn't see him in person, but I saw Peter Burrow on TV prior to our game, Luton's game against them, sort of towards the end of the season. I saw him swinging that carrot around. I was like, I love that guy, and also it's a fantastic pun. It's a great pun name.
So, the Peter Burrow, yes.
Yeah. So that's a good thing for me.
On my spreadsheet, it literally says Peter Burrow brackets carrot maniac.
Yeah, I do love that. The one mascot I also want to mention is I don't know the name of him, unfortunately, and I couldn't really find him online. Cheshunt had a tiger mascot, so I went to Cheshunt with Welshie, who's in Belgium as we speak. We went to Cheshunt and on non-league day, and there was this he wasn't like Tony the Tiger. He was just kind of like a tiger mascot. And for the entire game, he just walked around the pitch waving this flag. And all he did was that. And he wouldn't stop. Well, actually, he did stop. He stopped for some girls. That was all I would say. There was a point where he walked past me and I was like, oh, can I get a picture? And he was like, no, I love you. And then carried on walking. So he was a bit of a weird one. But
I did get a mark pick with Gloucester City's mascot, and I was a little bit. I got a little bit freaked out because like he's basically just got a head on, like a big foam head, but that was it. So there's no padding or anything. So it's like I kind of put my arm around him, and it's just a dude's shoulder. And I'm like, nah, that's just not right. Got to commit to it more than that, mate. So I have a top three. Do we want to go 3-1, me and you, or?
I don't know if I have three. I can think of two that I really particularly enjoyed. So yeah,
I think one of them is definitely the same. One of them is definitely the same. So my number three is Billy Brewer, the hideous Burton Albion mascot. It looks like something out of a child's nightmare. Like face is just awful. But the guy that's actually in the mascot suit put in a lot of time and energy during that game. And my favorite thing that he did was he took the piss out the other team's substitutes when they were warming up. So like when they were doing stretches and stuff, he'd try and do the stretches and then he'd like fall over. And it was properly in my way. I was watching him instead of the game, and the game was good. So
yeah,
like that's top mascotting.
I do actually have three. I've just realised. My number three is I don't really remember him being particularly animated, but I liked his costume. Was Swifty the Swift at Walsall. I just liked him. He was just a nice, happy, chirpy bird. I liked that.
Wasn't that the one where you could buy a match day experience with Swifty? And we were like, what's that involve? Building a nest.
Yeah, he feeds you worms. You have to sit in a nest, and he drops spaghetti into your mouth. I liked Swifty, but I think that was kind of a side effect of just enjoying that day in general. Really.
Yeah, that was a fun day. Can't forget Champy's Bradford Arms.
Yeah.
My number 2 mascot. Oh, we should have done like a best pub.
Next year. We can do. We can probably rattle off a few, can't we?
So my number 2 was Sammy the Stag, which
is my number 1.
Yeah, I thought he was probably your number 1.
Yeah,
I really appreciated Sammy the Stag. We've got Mansfield as the backdrop here, so that to support the Stags. Unfortunately, narrowly missed out on promotion, got beat in the playoff final. But Sammy the Stag kind of epitomized Mansfield. He had this never say die attitude.
Charging into battle.
He got this flag behind him, and he was getting mixed up in his antlers and whatnot as he was charging. Like it's a prime example of what a mascot can be. Like if you really want to like get the crowd G'd up, and I know some people look at this as like it's an American thing and that's what they do in America, but it works. It's fun. What's
Yeah, and I think he just epitomized everything that I love about sort of mad bastard mascots. Really, he was just getting involved. I think he had a great design. He had a crazy face on him. And say kind of, I've got a great picture of him charging with this battle flag.
Yeah,
charging and with the crazy face, it just looks great. So. For me, yeah, he's definitely my favourite. Obviously, I think I know your number 1, but
so who was your number 2?
I don't know if he counts as a mascot, but Gareth the cat at Bromley.
Yeah, I love Gareth.
Gareth the cat at Bromley. So it was just an actual cat.
Yeah, the actual
very well known.
The actual Bromley mascot is terrible because I think he's a raven.
Yes,
but So some mascots, they just let them wear shoes or like trainers or whatever so they can move around. And some of them give them these big like clown shoes, which means that the mascot's constantly like trying to fall over his own feet, can't do anything. And it's just a complete waste of time. No one's looking at their feet anyway. So, yeah.
I will say Harry wears them big clown shoes and he doesn't struggle. But he's a professional.
He is. He's a pro.
Yeah,
I think the Bromley mascot is done on rotation because I was reading, sadly no longer with us, Dave Roberts, his book Home and Away. He got to be the Bromley mascot for a game. He just says he wanted to do it, and they let him do it. So, I think it's a thing that's not particularly like one person.
I suppose for like a non-league team like that, I suppose you could probably just say, "Can I be the mascot?" and they probably would let you, wouldn't they? I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I would have thought so. Yeah. So my number 1, is Hayden from AFC Wimbledon. By far and away, the best mascot I've seen all season. Not even close to he's much better than Sammy the Stag. Like the sheer effort that he put in. I like the costume design. Obviously, it being a womble is great. But when he's doing a lot of the pre-match stuff where he was covering a lot of ground and getting around the stand, they all do that. But during the game, he was animated. He was running around. He got the like a bin in front of the main home stand, and he dragged it along, and he starts banging the lid, and he's actually getting the crowd. Look, the crowd are actually chanting along with him because he's like bang, 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 and obviously Womble's rubbish,
making use of the things that they find.
Yeah, it all ties together. So I thought that was a magnificent effort, and I had a sensational time at AFC Wimbledon, and the thing, amazingly, after having got this great day at the club, the thing that sticks in my mind is Hayden. And I think that's like a testament to how good the mascot is that I still remember. I can still picture him like doing his shtick.
Named after the overground station, Hayden's Road, which is next to the stadium. Well, I assume that's what it's named for.
I assume so. I haven't looked it up.
Because underground, overground.
Yes. Yes, it's all coming together.
Yeah.
So next up, we've got best food.
Okay.
Best food is a tricky one because I did not eat a lot of places that I went to. I only maybe had like a
Balti pie.
10 games, maybe, probably less than that.
Yeah, I've kind of made food part of my match day experience because I was doing it before the whole 30 Scram page really kicked off as well. So I kind of feel like, I was doing it before that. So yeah, I mean, food for me. I mean, I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I like me pies. So the Balti pie is obviously a thing I enjoy. It's kind of the same everywhere you go.
Yeah, you usually get the pucker one.
Yeah, so kind of three things really spring out to me. Number one was when I went to Barton Rovers, Chicken George, which is a kind of a Luton institution, voted like one of the best takeaways in the entire country, and literally is about 10 minutes from where I live. They catered at that game for some reason, so like you could get some great fried chicken. That was brilliant. The other things were two things from when I went to football in Berlin. So there was a great bratwurst I had at Victoria Berlin. Sausage is always good at football, especially and there's obviously the whole meme about when you get like
the bun's that big.
The bun is this big and the sausage is this big, so
yeah,
that's right.
The bun is like just to hold the sausage. That's what do people not understand about that?
But it's always a good meme. And then the other thing which I had at Tebe, which was the boulette, which is kind of like a I don't know if would you know what I mean by like a frikadellen? It's like a meatball style. It's like a burger made of meatball, like Swedish meatball.
Right.
That sort of thing. That was like in a roll, and like it had a stonking mustard with it. It was absolutely banging mustard. So yeah, that would be kind of my three picks for food, really. But yeah, basically meat.
Meat. Basically meat. I had a little think about it. I've had a lot of just sort of random burgers where I was really hungry that were good. So like
Arundel's burger was really nice.
Bath, Arundel, Mansfield, I had a decent burger at Mansfield. Notts County had a decent burger. But so my favourite and least favourite food, they're the same place. So I went to Portsmouth and I went to the food bit in the back of the stand, and I ordered myself a pie and ordered myself my wife was with me, so I basically ordered a pie and a sausage roll, and the idea was that Maria was going to eat the sausage roll and I'd eat the pie. So I tried to bite into the pie, and it was like biting into volcanic rock. It was rock hard. And then when I bit into it, bits of sauce come flying out the sides, and it's so hot. And it was just. It's
you always have a fork with the pie.
But a fork wouldn't have done it. You'd have broken the fork on the crust because it was rock hard. So it was rock hard. The middle was piping hot. It's basically like eating the planet Earth in miniature. So that was rubbish. But the sausage roll was incredible. Like that's the best food I've had at football all season. It was like there was like a lot of sausage in the sausage roll, but like not too much. So like sometimes you get the whole gimmick with the sausage roll is it's like, oh, you got that much sausage and like that much. There was a better balance than that, but there was a lot of sausage.
I had lovely sausage roll at Wickham as well.
Yeah, it was really good. So that was easily the best food I had, I think, because although I put little asterisks next to it and say I've eaten it maybe 10 grams, probably less than that. But that was the best food that I had, and also the worst.
Mentioning burgers, I have to bring up the Waders burger at Biggleswade United, which was Biggleswade Town, which was this brilliantly huge burger. If you type in Waders burger on my Twitter, you'll be able to find a picture of it. It's absolutely massive. That was a good one. I only forgot about it. I completely forgot about it.
I think you've had better food than me, but I just think you've had more. So
yeah, I've had a lot of nondescript sort of meat and like I say meat and potatoes, but I've had a lot of food which has just been, yeah, you can't really go wrong with cheeseburger usually.
meat and bread.
Yeah. So
that's it. Food. I don't know if I want to try and increase the amount of football food that I have next season. I don't know if I can be bothered. A lot of it involves like queuing, and I just don't like queuing. One of the best meals I've had this season is when we went to Peterborough. We went to the Thai restaurant that's like just sort of next to where the stadium is. There is the river, and there's like a barge boat, the name of which escapes me, but like it's like a bar in one part, and then another part of it is it's not a Thai restaurant, it's like an Asian like fusion cuisine place. So I had like a Malaysian curry in there, and I've had curry in Malaysia, and this was probably better than that. So I feel that was the best place I went for food. It's nowhere near the ground, so it doesn't really qualify. Like if I sent that into Footy Scran, they'd be like, "Well, where was that?" And I'd be like, "Down the road in a restaurant."
Yeah. Well, Footy Scran cancelled themselves.
I'd like to explore places around as opposed to just let's go to the ground and see what they got. Because when you go to the ground and see what they got, it's probably a burger.
Yeah,
if you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Footy Scran cancelled themselves, so just trust us on food. Really, is what I'd say.
Yeah, we're not going to encourage you to gamble. No. So, what odds on Jason Cowley getting goal of the season?
Well, it is. I think we've both decided this is the Jason Cowley, not memorial because he's not dead.
But he's not dead. He's injured, but he's not dead.
Yeah, so the Jason Cowley trophy
for best goal scored that one of us saw. I think we've kind of ended up plumping for a goal that we both saw. Although, I do have a short list.
I've got another one that I've just thought of. But
so we're not going to include the goal that this is now because I saw back in May of last year a goal scored by Jason Cowley for Bromsgrove Sporting against Alvechurch at Alvechurch just after like we were allowed to go to football at the back end of last season.
Yeah,
and it was an absolute screamer. It's the first goal my wife saw like at a football game because we went to a game years ago. We went to see Everton play years ago, but there was 0-0. So this is the first goal she'd ever seen. And he just picked the ball up and rocketed it into the top hand corner from 30 yards out. It was absolutely sensational. So if that was in this season, that would be my goal of the season. But it's not because it's not. So
but it got the honour of winning the award last year. It won the award last season, even though there was only one game. And he's now been named for the trophy.
Yeah, so it's the Jason Cowley Presents goal of the season. So I had a few short lists. So I'm not going to mention the one that we were both at. I'm going to mention the other three that I saw that were really good. So there was Aaron Cresswell scored a free kick for West Ham against Everton.
Yeah.
Which was just like when he stepped up, I'm like, he ain't going to score. You know, when you see a free kick at a football and you're like, that's not going in. He ain't going to score from there. And he just whipped it over the wall in the top hand corner. It's an incredible goal. Really good. I was upset. And all the crowd were cheering around me as well. And I'm like,
yeah,
it's a good goal. West Bromwich Albion's Shannon Stamps, this is for the women's team, scored a goal against AFC Fylde, who are one of the better women's teams in the division that they're in anyway.
Yeah.
She scored a goal where she just kind of picked the ball up and saw the keeper off the line and just dinked it over the top of her from just outside the area. I was behind the goal and I'm like, I saw it all the way and it was magic. Pure magic. And the other one that's on my honourable mentions is Hayden Carter for Portsmouth scored an absolute screamer against Oxford. It didn't go in the top hand corner though. I'm blaming the keeper for not getting it, so that's why it's bubbling under.
Yeah, so I think we both agreed on sort of our number one. I can't really remember any. That's the problem. I don't really remember goals though.
Yeah, I had to make notes during the course of the season.
Yeah, one goal I do particularly remember being very good was in pre-season Luton versus Borehamwood versus Luton. Sorry, and Carlos Mendes Gomez, Luton's Spanish midfielder, who can't seem to get a game, unfortunately, scored a really good goal from the outside of the box to put us like 3-1 up or something. So that was a really good goal, and also had somebody on a mobility scooter give everyone a finger. So that was really fun. So yeah, that would probably be my sort of number 2, but I think we're both agreeing on number 1.
Yeah, so number 1 being one Ross Barrows of Bromley, who scored an absolute cracker against Kingsley. When it went in, we were both like, whoa, that's a blinder, that is. He just absolutely thumped it. The keeper had no chance.
Yeah, and I say you can find highlights of that goal on YouTube. So have to take a look at that one for yourself. But it was a really good. That was a great game in general. So
yeah, I think we're going to talk about that in a sec, because like the next little award thing that we've got going is best game, and I saw a lot of really good games this season. A lot of 2-2s, 3-2s that were just fun football games. So I ended up with a short list of 3. Burton versus Cambridge. Like I said, when I was watching Billy Brewer, I said it was a really good game. It was end to end. It could have been any score. It was like 2-2, I think, in the end. Cheltenham against Ipswich, which I've put in there because Ipswich tried to play pretty football, and Cheltenham had Ben Tozer, who's now at Wrexham, and he's just like a big yeeting them big throw-ins into the box. And to watch Ipswich's defending was very much a case of like they're not playing that game. They're playing what they think is football, and they got done. It was also a great match for atmosphere, so I've put that sort of second.
Going through my games, because I just had to remind myself. Really good game this season was probably my favourite. Actually, no, I do come back to that. I enjoyed Leverstock Green versus Holmer Green on the what date was that? That was the 3rd of January, so it was the first game of the year. That was a really good game for me. It's freezing cold, but a really sort of good backwards and forwards game. Couple of weeks back, month or so back, I saw Bedford Town versus AFC Dunstable. That was a game where Bedford won the league. That was a really, really good backwards and forwards game. Bedford had a brilliant performance. Been a really good team all year. We're going to talk about a game that we both enjoyed, but probably my number 1, because I only just remembered it, was Jersey Bulls versus Banstead Athletic at the Adams Park, home of Wycombe Wanderers. Jersey sort of had a bit of a mini tour while their Springfield Stadium was being refurbished back in Jersey. This was an absolute. It was bonkers game simply because it happened. Jersey playing at home in Wycombe was obviously odd. Jersey brought over probably about 50 odd fans who were quite loud and active. They had flags, they were chanting, they had cowbells for some reason. So that was kind of fun.
Jersey cows.
Yeah, Jersey cows, I suppose. It was like 1-1 for most of the game, and then it got to 80th minute, and Banstead got a goal, so it was 2-1. Got to 92nd minute, Jersey gets an equaliser, and everyone goes mental. Everyone goes absolutely mental. People, the very small crowd storms the side of the pitch. They don't go on, obviously, but they were a bit crazy. And then on the 95th minute, Banstead scored another goal. So it ends up being 3-2. One of the craziest ends to any game I've seen. The Banstead manager gets sent off in the sort of the carnage of the result. So yeah, that was a crazy old game, and it was a brilliant, really, really brilliant sort of. Both teams looked great, and I think I've come away from it really wanting to go to Jersey now because the fans were mental.
on that logic, we should probably also go to watch Kings Lynn at some point, because the game that we went to a game the day after that QPR fiasco, and we went to watch Bromley versus Kings Lynn, which is probably not everybody's idea of, that's going to be game of the season. But it just, I think when we got there, like the Kings Lynn fans, there's like 40, maybe 50 of them.
Yeah.
But they were so up for it. They were so animated that there was so much noise coming from that like corner for so few fans that I kind of felt like, maybe we're in for something here. Kings Lynn were down. I think they were second bottom.
They're going down with the Dover.
They were going down with the Dover. Bromley were chasing promotion at that point. I mean, it kind of fell away for them, but they were up there. And within 5 minutes, Kings Lynn had taken the lead, and it was Jaden Davis, who was on loan from Millwall. It was right in front of us, and I swear the ball was out of play.
It was definitely out of play.
It crossed the goal line, and he kind of cut inside the defender and smashed it in. I mean, I can't begrudge it him because it was his first senior goal, but
he was a good player.
Sure. Yeah, he had a very good game, Jaden Davis, a Millwall player. If any Millwall fans are watching, the Kings Lynn fans started chanting, "How shit must you be? We're winning away," which I felt was an indication of things to come. Then we had the locals chanting, "You dirty northern bastards" at Kings Lynn. Come on, lads. Kings Lynn, like, even by southern standards.
Well, I mean, it is more northern than...
It's more northern, but it's not.
Culturally not northern, is it?
No. Very southern. We also got to see Gareth the Cat.
Gareth the Cat, yeah.
That was great.
We stood by the tea hut.
We got to stand, by the Bromley tea hut from the Bromley boys. It was just a great time at the football, and then of course,
was a wonderful.
Scored that sensational goal that even thinks it was 2-1 to Kings Lynn, and Ross Barrows smashed that one in for 2-2. I described the strike at the time as Cowley-esque, so it must have been good.
That's a thing that's in my vernacular now.
And then they got like a really late winner, I think. I forget. I don't think it was that late, but they won it late on anyway. So Bromley won 3-2. It was a really good game of football, and that was my game of the season. But it's also because it was the day after the QPR, and we were. I mean, it was a toss-up between let's go and watch a non-league game or
Leyton Orient. I think didn't we think about possibly doing Leyton Orient?
We thought about it, but I think it was a case of it's too big. I want something smaller. It was really like
we need to get back on the horse. Really,
away from that and towards this.
Yeah,
get the grassroots in. So that's what happened, and it was the best game we saw all season. Well, it's in your top 2. It's in my top 1. Yeah,
I think. It was only, I think, until I thought of that Jersey Banstead game. Yeah, it was definitely probably my number 1. But it was a sudden surge from Jersey there.
It was good. It was a good game. Good game. I enjoyed it. So that just leaves with 2 major awards to give out. One for best atmosphere and one for best ground. And for atmosphere, I have a short list of 4. For best ground, I have a short list of 6. So I haven't really whittled it down particularly.
I think to probably pin it on 1 is going to be difficult, really. I think we should probably just go through.
Okay, that's fine. Atmosphere-wise, though, that's first up. So what did you have as your...
Atmosphere, again, I think I'm kind of rating them on different things. I really enjoyed the vibe of Dulwich Hamlet, which we did last game of the season, which we all did. That was a great sort of atmosphere. Felt like being at a festival where there was football.
But if for laid back, I would say like either Port Vale or Notts County was probably my favourite. But in terms of like passion and volume and just sheer intensity, I feel like there was some other clubs that were on a completely different level.
I feel that Walsall Mansfield, that game, actually kind of both games really, I felt they were very good sort of atmosphere wise. They were really good. The atmosphere at the first game of the season, Luton versus Peterborough, I thought that was very, very good. It was, for me, it was personally the first time back in Kenilworth Road since the pandemic. So for me, that was quite important for me. It was a great atmosphere, sort of the first game since Mick Harford had his cancer diagnosis. But I think for me, number one would be Tennis Borussia Berlin. I got bitten by them, I feel. They kind of really got me on the Sunday. And then I had to go back like 3 days later. I kind of mentioned it when we did that episode. So probably if you want to see me wax lyrical more about it, then go to that episode. But the main thing I would say is that I say a lot of clubs globally, they make a lot of bullshit about being inclusive, but this is legitimately a very inclusive space. It's a very, very welcoming club. I
also kind of felt that about Dulwich Hamlet.
Yeah.
Dulwich Hamlet very strong, everyone is welcome vibes. Yeah. Very strong.
Yeah, I would say probably Dulwich is probably the most Tebe team I've seen in the UK. It was there's no facade of it being for show. It's 100% what the club stands for, their ethos, and for me that's why I absolutely loved it. And they had when it went on the Sunday, they had purple and pink confetti they threw up at the start of the game. They do a thing where whenever they went for a corner, they'd wave their keys because it was a key moment.
Key moments.
Which he said at Dulwich, and I realised that. They had like loads of flags. They had stickers everywhere. They had when I went on the evening games, because I went for the evening game afterwards, they had sparklers. They had loads of like fun songs. For me, it was perfect. I think if I lived in Berlin, I'd go there every week. There's not a doubt of it. I'd be a season ticket holder there.
Strong words.
Yeah.
So I had 4, and I feel like there was 3 that were really close and 1 that was just a bit above. So I'm going to go through the 3 that were really close. One of which I don't think I've really mentioned that much on here. The other 2 I think I have. So there's Portsmouth. Portsmouth famously have this incredible atmosphere, but I know people who've been there and have said it's fraudulent. It's bollocks. It's not real. I went there. It was very, very real, and it was a very wet Tuesday night, and they were behind, and the crowd was immense, like absolutely immense. That the end of Fratton Park, where all the elite sort of the ultra fans are. John Portsmouth FC is probably in there waving his scarf around. They were so loud. They were so supportive. And I feel like Portsmouth won that game because the crowd was there and the crowd did what they did. They just drove them forwards and pushed them on. Portsmouth in the first half were terrible. It's one of the worst 45 minutes of football I've seen from a team anywhere this season. It was shambolic. Second half, they were good, but they weren't great. The crowd was great. So Portsmouth, for me, I believe the hype now because I've been there and I've seen it and I've felt it, and it was great. Really, really enjoyed that. Before that, I felt that the best team that I'd been to see in terms of atmosphere was Cheltenham, which might seem a little bit strange because they're a very small club, Cheltenham, but they have a very strong sort of young ultra section. So we were sat right next to where it is. So I felt like we were in the perfect space to kind of absorb all that atmosphere. And it wasn't the only part of the ground that made noise. The noise was coming from all over the place. But this bit, all these lads, they were stood up the whole game, chanting, singing, non-stop, banging the drums. I know you don't like drums, but they were banging the drums, just would not stop chanting. And again, Cheltenham won that game, and I feel that the crowd had a big part to play in it. They beat Ipswich, who were a much better footballing side. One lad missed an open goal for Ipswich. I don't know if that was intimidation because of the crowd were right on top of the pitch and there was so much noise. Maybe it was. So I feel like they got those points because of how great the crowd was. And the other one, the one that I've not mentioned so much, I thought this was a phenomenal atmosphere. Shrewsbury.
Okay. Yeah.
So Shrewsbury in midweek, the crowd was loud from like 3 parts of the ground. They had a safe standing bit at the back of the main stand. And they were waving flags up there and they were just making a load of noise. But during the game, anytime they quietened down a little bit, there was another bit just off behind me here and then another bit just over there. And they were all yelling and screaming and singing as well. It was just noise everywhere. And this was a Tuesday and they lost to Wycombe. But the atmosphere was fantastic. So yeah, Shrewsbury, and it's not even one of those grounds where everyone's on top of the pitch. It's a new build. It's out of town.
A very new ground, yeah.
And the fans I thought were fantastic. So like in terms of atmosphere, that was very close to being my top ground this season. The one that won it for me was AFC Wimbledon, and it's just. I don't know how it will have been over the second half of the season because obviously their form went completely into the toilet.
Yeah, they didn't win a game from December
onwards. They didn't win a game in the second half of the season. They were dreadful. They got relegated. I kind of felt bad because when we went there, I went with Welshie, Maria as well. We all went. And the atmosphere at that game was great. It was a club that was so happy to have like got back to where they wanted to be. Because they'd been at Kings Meadow for, I can't even remember how many years they'd been out there. But they'd finally got the new ground built. They were in it. There were fans in there. And it was a great atmosphere. And it was so involving that every other game, even the Cheltenham one, where there was this whole wall of people like singing right next to me, I didn't feel the urge to get involved. With AFC Wimbledon, it was everybody was singing, like everybody, everywhere, all the way around the ground. Everybody was singing AFC Wimbledon because they were so happy to be back in Player Lane. They were so happy to be back home. The program is called BTPL, so it's back to Player Lane.
Yeah,
this is what it's all been about for them. It's not so much about where they are in the league; it's getting back to their cultural home. And to have sat and experienced that, it was completely different level. And I've seen other people go there and not have the same experience. And I'm kind of sad that they didn't, because when I was there, it was amazing.
And especially you're sort of saying about back to the spiritual home. I mean, it wasn't even really their home. They weren't there towards the end of the Wimbledon FC run because they were at Selhurst.
The ground shared with Palace. So
yeah, they were at Selhurst Park. I mean, when I remember, like when I started watching football, I was very aware of them playing at Selhurst Park. I don't think I ever remember them playing at Plough Lane.
Yeah, I remember Plough Lane when they won when they won the FA Cup. When Wimbledon won the FA Cup, they were at Plough Lane. So it's been a long, long road for them to get back there, and they're clearly very happy about it. And I'm kind of sad that their season bottomed out like it did, because there's a lot worse teams in that division that deserve to go down ahead of them and didn't. So I'm sure they'll come back up though. Like based on the spirit and the atmosphere and the drive and determination that was around the place, I'm sure they'll be back.
Yeah, League 2, League 1, it's not a terrible place to be. It's as long as you stay in that league, effectively.
Yeah, I can't see them staying in League 2. I think they'll come back up next season. I think they just had a bad run. There's far worse teams around.
Yeah, for sure.
Now the big one, best ground. And I struggled to narrow this down.
Yeah, I managed to get it to 3, and that's being quite ruthless. But these are 3 that I liked for different reasons. I don't know if you want me to just rattle through them, and I'll sort of talk about them.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So the 3 I put down were Vauxhall Road, home of Hemel Hempstead FC, who've become my second team inadvertently.
Next year.
Inadvertently, yeah. Next year, lads. So yeah, if you don't know, towards the end of this season, I had never seen Hemel Hempstead FC before, and I ended up seeing 3 games in the space of a month. So, but yeah, I went to Hemel Hempstead on the bank holiday weekend. And I just really liked it. It is a 3G pitch, which I'm not so hot on, but I kind of get why teams do 3D pitches. But it was kind of it's just a bit of a mad hodgepodge of stands, really. And there's some like really old-fashioned stands. There's like old-fashioned terrace sort of stand. There's like a really long family stand. The clubhouse is really weird because it's got like, you go into the clubhouse and it looks like a really horrible flat-roofed pub. But you go in and it's got like Roman columns and like David.
I forgot about that.
That's really weird. There's like a racing pigeons club in there. So yeah, that's kind of a bit mad. Yeah, it's just, I walked in there and it's just like, it's like in the middle. It's just off of a roundabout in a really quiet, sleepy road. And you wouldn't know if you kind of drove down there on a non-match day. You wouldn't even see it. It looks like a row of looks like a road to some garages. That's all it looks like. But it was. I walked in and immediately felt like, yeah, this has got the stuff I love to look for. For me, it had everything of what I know. It was a little bit mad. I liked the team that played there. It's all wonky, so like one end's higher than the other. So one end of the pitch, you're above the pitch, like in the stand, and then the other end of the pitch, you're actually underneath the pitch. So the pitch is completely level, but the ground isn't. So like I just loved that for me. So that's Vauxhall Road. And I kind of really regret not going beforehand though. So yeah.
Yeah, really, it's not even that far away for you, is it, Hemel?
No, it was always the biggest ground near me that I hadn't done, really. So, apart from Milton Keynes and Watford, but other reasons for that.
Oh yeah, completely understandable.
My other one I liked was, well, I would say is in my top 3, was Mommsenstadion in Berlin. I've kind of already said about why that is. That was Tennis Borussia's ground. It's an old style Europe where it's a German municipal athletics track stadium with concrete terracing. It's just a really cool old style European ground. Yeah, I can't really say much more than that. There was other reasons why I did enjoy that, but architecturally, I kind of loved that. As a really nice old scoreboard.
Yeah, I like the thing they seem to do in Germany in sort of the lower leagues is the sort of, it's all banked standing.
Yeah, so it was banked terracing. Yeah, I loved that. But my number 1 for me was City Ground, Nottingham Forest. For me, it's kind of everything that ground should be, really. It felt like a cathedral. It towers around everything around it. So it feels like just a cathedral of football. You walk in and
it's kind of like a religious experience heading into it, because like we walked sort of along the Trent.
Yes.
And then when you get into it, there's all the plaques with the ex-players and stuff, and then you have to go in and up the
bowels of the stadium.
Yeah, and it's like heading on. We were thinking about, I imagine them European nights back in the day when Forest were big, and we were mourning Forest at the time, saying like, oh, they're probably going to go down to League One, and they're in the Premier League next season.
I will say, Nottingham Forest are the worst professional team I've seen live this year, and they ended up being the best team in the Football League basically towards the end of the year. So, Yeah, it was.
It
for
shows
me,
what difference a manager makes. So
100%.
Steve Cooper, phenomenal job he's done there. It's absolutely unbelievable.
So yeah, I'm very, very, I'm excited to see how they do next season in the Premier League. If it wasn't Luton that went up, I would have liked it to have been Forest, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, I think just for me, it has, in terms of a big ground, a big proper ground, it had everything for me. It was the experience of going to the ground was wonderful, going alongside the Trent, or when we went to the wrong part of the ground, sort of surrounding area being completely forest, because there was like Cluffy's Cobbs or something. It was like a sandwich shop called Cluffy's Cobbs or something like that. I love all that sort of stuff.
Having been to Nottingham 4 times now, they're very, very proud of the club. They're very, very proud of Brian Clough and what he achieved there. Yeah. So they've very much embraced the spirit of the thing. And when they're on that cup run, the crowd reaction during those games was very special. So I'm really hoping that Forest can stick it in the Premier League and stay there for a good long while.
You wanted to nip into the Conference League.
Yeah, they're a great club. They really are, and I love the ground as well. The any ground that's just a little bit wonky, a little bit uneven, kind of is a big selling point for me. And for some reason, so we're in the Trent end, like opposite. It's like it starts up here, and as the stand goes along, it just kind of drops down. It goes across, and it's like, why?
Yeah,
I don't really understand that, but like it looks weird, but also good.
Yeah, so that's kind of my 3, and I say I did 26 new grounds this season. 26 new grounds this season, and it was very hard to whittle down a lot of those because I liked vast majority of them for very, very different reasons, but they were the 3 that really stood out for me.
Okay, so it's tough, but I've basically just, while you were talking, I've tried to chip 3 away, so I've got 3. So I'm just going to.
What were the ones you chipped away?
Kenilworth Road, which I love. Kenilworth Road. It's like a dump, but in a good way.
Yeah.
It's just so odd that it shouldn't be a football ground. The away end is through a row of housing. It shouldn't be a football ground. It is, and it's great, and I love it. Twerton Park, which is Bath
City, yeah.
That is a beautiful ground. It's as with Kenilworth Road, it's a little bit falling apart. And I went to it in November when it was freezing cold, so I possibly don't have the best of memories of it. But if you stand sort of on the one side of it, you can see out across Bath, which is, and it's a beautiful town as well, Bath. So Twerton Park, I would heavily recommend going to Twerton Park. And Craven Cottage was the other one that I've
fantastic. My favourite ground.
It's beautiful. Craven Cottage is the only downside to it is they're basically refurbing it. So
not a big fan of the new stand.
When we were there, there's a massive stand that they've built by the river, which I don't know if it's keeping in with the aesthetic of the rest of the ground, but
not a massive fan of the new stand.
It's going to be big.
Yeah.
So my 3 that I've got, and I can't choose between them because I love them all for different reasons. So the 3 that I've picked, Notts County.
Yeah.
So Notts County, I've been to a few clubs this season where I've felt like I'm at home, where I felt like I've been there forever, and the people around me are the people I've always watched football with. And Notts County summed that up in a way that made me emotional. So it felt like I'd always been a Notts County fan. It's the reason why I've got a Notts County scarf, because I feel like I've been there before in a past life or something. I felt like I was just coming home. So in terms of just sitting down in a football ground and feeling that I just belong there, number 1 would be Notts County. I don't think anything else is close. Other grounds that I'd like to give the big shout out to, Turf Moor. For Burnley is this beautiful mix of a classic old ground that is out on slightly on the outskirts of a town, so that you can see the hills rolling away into the background. That was, again, that felt like a bit of a religious experience going to Turf Moor. But it's not just that old ground, so it kind of feels like you're sat in this ground that your granddad might have been to, and it wasn't that different. But also they've slapped a load of LED boards over the top of it, so it's almost like it's had a fresh coat of paint, like a fresh coat of like CGI paint almost over the top of like the old ground.
Yeah, the money came through,
but it works. So like it's a clash almost, but it's so hard to describe. Burnley is such a small place, but they were a Premier League team, so I got to see the champions of Europe, Chelsea, play there.
The world champions.
The world champions, Chelsea, play there. It was great seats, but when I stood up, I could see into like this little section off to the side that was full of old fellas, and it wasn't even that big. So there must have been like 20 people in there. They could have got another, I don't know, if they'd kind of knocked that bit down and built it with seats in, they're probably getting another 400, 500 people. But it's just there for them. And their seats are incredible as well, because they're on the exact same level that I was on, and those are the best seats I had all season. So Burnley, great club. Kind of sad they went down, but I feel like it was possibly their time to go. But they spent the money right. Like you can see from Turf Moor that it's a great ground. I love going there. It was so nice. And the other one, so the trifecta of great grounds that I went to this season, Notts County was where I felt most at home. Turf Moor is where I felt the history of the game kind of clash with the modern era of football. And the third one that I've picked is Hillsborough. Yeah. Hillsborough is a church for football. I haven't been to some of the grounds that are sort of on that par, like I don't know, Villa Park, Old Trafford,
Ibrox.
I mean, I've been to Anfield, I've been to Old Wembley. Hillsborough just feels so special when you go into it. I just sat down and I was just taking in the surroundings, and I just felt like I was part of it.
Well, it's got a mythology about it. We're not, there's 120 years of English football history in that place, effectively, isn't
it? Yeah. It was just great. It was great going there. I loved it. I was trying to think of a downside to it. I guess it would be that it's not going great at the moment for Sheffield Wednesday, and they kind of tumbled out of the playoff stage, lost to Sunderland. But that's a stadium that could be proper lively given the right circumstances. It was good when I went, but this, obviously, the review that I had of Hillsborough got the most traction out of anything that I've ever done. Ever in my life that I've written that had the most eyes on it is what I wrote about Hillsborough. And the response that I got from Sheffield Wednesday's fans made me feel like I was part of it, made me feel like I was part of that experience, part of that club. So those are three clubs that are just going to be special to me from here on. So that's great. That's what you want. Yeah. Like when we set out on this, I remember saying right at the start of the season, I was like, I just want to feel that connection again, because I don't. At the start of the season, I'm an Everton supporter, and at the start of the season, I felt no connection to that football club at all, because they'd hired a manager I hated. They're just a rich club, and it doesn't feel right. The team that I supported when I was a kid was Bromsgrove Rovers. They don't exist anymore. They've been replaced by Bromsgrove Sporting, who they don't wear these colours. They wear red for some reason, which is just weird, and I don't like it. So I was looking for a connection, and these are three places where I went where I've absolutely felt that connection. I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. And that's what it was all about.
That's all what you want, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, so that's kind of our awards, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
As I said, yeah, it's been a very, very busy season.
Is there anywhere that you wanted to go this season that you didn't get to?
There's nothing that I felt I missed out on. I feel happy. I feel satisfied with what I've done. I don't. Yeah, to be honest, I don't really feel like I've lacked anything. I feel like I've seen a good mixture of levels. I know what I've liked and what I haven't liked so much. So, yeah, I'm satisfied with what I've done. I would have liked to have done more, but then there was also the issue of midway through the season, there was the third wave of COVID, which knocked basically a month and a half out of the calendar.
Yeah, I mean, December I was busy anyway.
Yeah, so and then likewise for yourself. So yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied with my year. I did 35 matches, going by my season summary. 35 matches and 26 new grounds. Obviously, a lot of them games were at Luton Town, so they weren't new. But yeah, I was quite satisfied with what I did see.
I like that my Footballogy roundup reads 46 grounds, 46 new grounds.
Yeah,
46 matches.
Yeah. Sometimes I get lazy and I'll get offered a ticket for Luton. And I'm like, yeah, all right. So that's for me.
Yeah, there's one that I'm annoyed that I didn't get to this season, and that's Villa Park.
Yeah,
that's the only big ground near me that I haven't been to, and I'm just annoyed that I haven't done it yet. And I tried, but tickets are just hard to come by. It's a big club, big successful club, and what can you do?
What can you do?
I did knock off a load of the Midlands teams that I'd not been to that I felt like it was embarrassing that I hadn't. So I've been to Birmingham, I've been to West Brom, Coventry. I went to Kiddie Harriers for the first time ever, even though it's so close. But I've always thought like Kidderminster was this backwards place with like inbred lunatics. So like I didn't particularly want to go there, but it turned out it was quite nice. So leave your prejudices at the door, I guess. Oh, and Hereford. Hereford was another one I really wanted to do, and I'm glad I did Hereford.
Yeah, the game I wanted to go to, but I couldn't because it wasn't legally possible to go to, was I was planning on going to a UEFA Conference League qualifying match, playoff, at Carnarvon Town in Wales, but it wasn't legal to go to it was illegal to go to the game, so I couldn't. That's one regret. I wanted to have a nice one in North Wales, but that wasn't possible.
I do live quite close to Wales, so like Wales is something I'm considering doing more of. But then I don't know. I don't know what. I'm kind of leaving it open as to what I do. There's a few that in the back of my head I'm like, I really want to do that next season.
Yeah,
Villa is on that list. Huddersfield is one that I really want to do because it looks great for atmosphere, and we've got friends all over the country in places where I really want to go there, and I really want to go there just to go to a game with my friends. And Arbroath, because it's right next to the ocean, and I kind of want to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And the good thing every time I've gone to a game with somebody new, it's always been like, sure, let's go and do that at some point, and that's kind of been nice to have sort of plans for that. So I want a few teams that I do want to see. I want to go to Ipswich Town. It seems like a bit of a non-exotic thing, but they're a team I'm in the east of England technically, so I used to watch BBC Look East, and Ipswich Town was one of the teams that was always on BBC Look East, so I kind of feel like I should go and see them at some point. I do want to maybe do a bit of Northern Irish football. I'd like to get Cliftonville's one I would like to go to.
I'm trying to remember which one it is that has that incredible looking stand.
I think it is Cliftonville. You're talking about. So, so I'd like to just do I just kind of want to do more. I want to be on 80 next year. Let's go for 80. 80, maybe even 100, but I don't know if that's possible. But but yeah, it's just for me. I just want to get more. But we've got a very busy. Well, I've got a very busy July, and I think so do you.
Yeah, I've got tickets to 6 games in July before the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So that's
I've got tickets to 4 games in July, but it's still there's lots that I've sort of got eyes on. So I will hit 50 in July.
Yes, I'll be close to 60 by the end of it. So the women's Euros are in July, so I've got tickets to 4 games in the women's Euros at grounds that I've never been to. One of which is Old Trafford because I'm going to the opening ceremony.
That would be great.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And we've got this trip to Stockholm. Hopefully the airports are clear by the start of July because we're going to watch.
We're going to the 2 big grounds in Stockholm.
Yeah, and Duygarden and Hammarby they ground share, so we're basically seeing both of them at home. But it's the derby game, so that's going to be fun.
So I've got a few games. I've got 2 games in the Women's Euros so far. I might chuck another one in at some point, but I've got the semi-final at Milton Keynes, one of the semi-finals at Milton Keynes, and I've also got one of the games at Brentford because it's the easiest way of getting to Brentford's ground.
So
in
the Premier League, it's going to be hard to tick that one off. So I'm going to Denmark versus Spain.
Yeah, same with me. So, hey, if you ever want to see us, go to Denmark versus Spain in the Euros.
Denmark
we'll be there.
Spain, the Women's Euros will be there. Probably not sat together though because of the ticket allocations, but
but and so we'll be deep into pre-season by then. So there's a few trips I've got my eye on for local sort of teams. I'm waiting to see a really random ass team come to the UK, and I'll try and drive.
I have been looking through fixture lists just to see what the away team is. So I've just been scrolling through looking at the away team looking for like Fiorentinas and Galatasarays. And
a good few years ago, there was a game. It was Crystal Palace versus Schalke, and I was like, "Oh, I really wish I went to that game now."
Yeah.
On reflection, I should have, but I want something random like that. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get anything that spicy, to be honest, this summer, which is a shame. But maybe next year that'll start to pick up again. We'll get some weird fixtures. I'm excited for it.
But
that's year 1 done.
Season 1 in the books.
Complete. Look at our ground numbers. Look at how much they've grown.
How we've grown as people and as Groundhoppers. But so our season sort of. So we're going to sort of do a mini reset on our clock. Well, we're going to still keep this thing, but obviously the new season will start on 1st of July, I think, for us in our heads. So I don't think we're going to get anything in before then. So we're going to
I've not got any plans. I'm basically working every weekend apart from...
There just really isn't very much, to be honest.
I did look. I mean, Footballogy's a great app. We're not sponsored by it. We're just fans. So
if they do want to sponsor us, we would advertise you. But
but if say you stick this Saturday in Footballogy and
you'll say there's no games.
It's going to say there's no. Well, no, it's going to say England are playing Italy in the Nations League. But apart from that, there's nothing. So
the problem is, I live south. I live southern enough that I get games in France. So, Although actually, no, I've got a game for Friday, which is Newtown SC versus Gresford Athletic. So that's in.
So the friendlies are kicking in already.
That is a friendly, yeah. That's a Welsh game, but I do get the odd. I get the odd Dutch and Belgian and French game in my Footballogy, but that's because I live a bit too south.
This is normally what we do after we stop recording. It's like, hey, look at this game.
Yeah. But yeah, we would highly recommend Footballogy as an app. But,
please sponsor us.
Yeah.
Also, Vault City. Like, if Vault City want to sponsor me, then I will take that sponsorship.
Or footballgroundmap.co. Heineken.com.
Any of these, I will quite happily shield you. Heineken can get fucked. And no betting companies, just not happening.
We're happy to put over Hungrilla Gourmet Grill.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And also Mansfield carpets and wood floors.
Yes, they deserve it. They've worked hard for that.
Yeah.
I can't actually read this one, but there's a very nice looking pizza, kebabs, pasta, and fried chicken joint. I can make out the phone number, but not really the.
Give them a ring if you're in the Mansfield area.
If you're in the Mansfield area, come on, you stags.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll see you next season. I imagine we're probably going to record somewhere in July at some point. Looking at our schedule, I'm not really sure where, but we will have been to some interesting places and we'll have some fun stuff for you. So until then, you can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Kilby. Feel free to hit the subscribe button down the bottom there if you're still around to do so. And you can go on arnoldfurious.com to read all of my various ground hopping ventures. So there's like 40 some odd. Well, I've done all of them, so there's like 52 of them. So go nuts on there, and we'll see you next season.
Cheers.